Hello everyone, welcome to Wally Magazine. Today is April 4th, 2025. I wanted to say in this episode that the Sino-US trade war is extremely crazy. China just announced a strong counterattack against the United States, imposing a 34% retaliatory tariff. In addition to the previous 67% claimed by the US, China imposed a total of 101% tariff on the United States. In addition to imposing tariffs on the United States, China also implemented export controls on many key minerals and even implemented a list for American companies, which means prohibiting doing business with them. On the other hand, the United States announced on April 2nd that it would impose an additional reciprocal tariff of 34% on China. It turns out that the total tariff is 76%, including Trump's 2 terms. What does this mean? Originally, the United States said that it would not reduce its tariffs based on China's reaction. Now China is showing it through actions. That means the tariff war will escalate, which means the two countries will decouple. If they decouple, I think China's trade surplus will lose 10 trillion yuan in foreign exchange in 5 years, not to mention the factories that China has moved to other places. That would be really bad. In addition, Hong Kong's re-export business will soon be ruined, and it may even affect exports to China. Why? Before we begin, I kindly invite you to subscribe to my channel. It's completely free. Feel free to leave a comment, like the video, and share it with your friends to help support the channel. In this century's tariff war, the United States imposed tariffs on the world, but the most important point turned out to be China. Because China is a major manufacturing and exporting country, the biggest impact should be on China, and the tax rate is quite crazy for China. And it's not just China because it imposes tariffs on its neighboring countries. Many manufacturers in China have gone to Vietnam and Thailand to circumvent US tariffs. He has imposed more than 40% tariffs on Vietnam, so China's losses are really unbelievable. I filmed an episode before saying that, in fact, this term of the US president has imposed a total of 54% tariffs on China, which is very close to the 60 Trump said before. But many viewers told me that it is not 76. Some people said 74. I just read a report from Ming Pao. Let me explain how it is 76. Quoting Ming Pao, it's very good. They made a table, and I have seen it on the internet. In fact, all websites have this chart. In fact, during his first term, Trump imposed 19% tariffs at the end of his first term, a total of 19%. Biden added a little bit, and it became 22% at the end of Biden's term. It is 20% this Trump's second term, and 10% each time. Add another 34%, and the total reciprocal tariff is 54%. If you add this 22%, it will be a 76% tariff. Here is a detailed information. If you are convenient, you can go to Ming Pao. This is a report from Ming Pao. The US Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick said on Bloomberg TV that if foreign countries want to be exempted from Trump's reciprocal tariffs, they must first resolve the US commodity import supervision and policy issues. He said, what should be done if the tax rate and exchange rate are lowered? Is there a chance for further reduction? That depends on China. We can talk about it. He gave the example that the EU subsidizes local manufacturers with a 20% VAT, but the monster of non-tariff barriers is going to be cleared. Lutnick also confirmed that the new 30% tariff on China is the addition of the previous 20%, not counting the first term. The total is actually 76%. He said that as long as Xi Jinping calls Trump and says that we will stop producing fentanyl, the 20% tariff can be reduced. However, it seems that China is now taking actions to express an epic and strong counterattack. Not only does it impose tariffs, but it also produces a lot of things. He also said that the US accusations are groundless and that he has tried very hard to control fentanyl, profitable chemicals, etc. And this time, the tariffs are also countered. This time, it seems that it will escalate. The two countries will become more and more aggressive. The escalation of the circle is very terrifying. China will not be beaten without fighting back, so it made this countermeasure, which is clearly a head-on confrontation with the United States. The Tariff Committee of the State Council issued an announcement on April 4th. He said that starting at 12:01 p.m. on April 10th, an additional 34% tariff will be imposed on all American goods. The current tax supplement and tax reduction policies will remain unchanged. The newly added tariffs will not be reduced or exempted. It is tough enough. It is exactly the same as the 34% tariff of the United States. The additional reciprocal tariffs are levied. It is clear that I will give you more as much as you give. How much less should I pay you? Actually, how can we stop it? Because China originally accounted for 67%. If we add it up according to what the United States said, it would be 101%. In addition to tariffs, China also made a big move. The Ministry of Commerce and the General Administration of Customs simultaneously announced that they would implement export controls on one of the 7 types of rare earth materials, and it would take effect immediately. These rare earths are very related to those high-tech military products. They are their lifeblood and their most important raw materials. Many American companies rely on China for supply. If you really hit the key point, will the United States have any way to deal with it? In fact, the United States is already looking for a lot of minerals, including Ukraine. The Ministry of Commerce also said that it was for national security and international obligations. China's countermeasures are not just as simple as tariffs and rare earths. There are also line attacks. The Ministry of Commerce announced on the same day that 16 American entities would be included in the export control list, such as High Point Aviation Technology Company and Global World Logistics Company. They are prohibited from exporting dual-use items and must immediately stop all related activities. There are also 11 American companies, such as those of Skydio and Brick Drone Company, etc., which are included in the unreliable entity list. Fentanyl speaking, a lot of these American companies are actually not doing business with China at all. Some are banned from selling to China. Do you ban the entity list? Plantar. The information technology they have developed is to respond to China's challenges. Of course, they will not sell it to China, so whether this countermeasure is really effective remains to be seen. They say that because these companies have military and technological cooperation with Taiwan, they will not do business with them. China says that these actions undermine national security and sovereignty. In addition, China has filed a lawsuit against the United States for reciprocal tariffs in the World Trade Organization, WTO. The General Administration of Customs has also suspended the qualifications of several American companies for high-grain poultry powder and other poultry products such as shuhua. He has also launched anti-dumping investigations on medical CT tubes in the United States and India. These multi-pronged actions clearly show that they are going to cooperate with the United States comprehensively. If the war breaks out, it will probably be fully escalated. The United States has a trade deficit with China, which means that China has a trade surplus. In 2018, the highest was 410 billion US dollars. This is why the Trump administration often says that China stole more than 400 billion US dollars from the United States. Of course, we don't comment on whether we agree or not. By 2023, it will fall to 279.4 billion US dollars and rise to 295.4 billion US dollars in 2024, which is equivalent to more than 2 trillion yuan. If China and the United States completely decouple, China's exports to the United States will plummet. In 2024, the total exports will be 438 billion US dollars. According to the trade surplus ratio, China loses more than 290 billion US dollars a year, which is 210 billion yuan. Calculating the RMB is more than that, which is very exaggerated, but this is not the whole picture, because many Chinese manufacturers have moved to Vietnam, Mexico, etc. in recent years to avoid tariffs. You can see that Vietnam and Mexico's trade surplus with the United States has increased significantly. In fact, Chinese manufacturers have gone there to avoid US tariffs. Jintang is really serious because Jintang is, for example, I will give you an example. For example, an outdoor plus private trader called Jin Chaofeng. They set up a factory in Vietnam, but now the United States has imposed a 46% tariff on Vietnam and a 36% tariff on Thailand. These new factories are also affected. Experts estimate that if the supply chain is broken and the global demand shrinks, China's losses may exceed 1 year. Over 400 billion US dollars is 3 trillion RMB. Added to the economy and overcapacity, China is really in dire straits this time. The Chinese economy itself is not good, and China relies on exports. It is also the world's factory. Therefore, this tariff has a particularly huge impact on China. It is estimated that many factories will go bankrupt at once. In addition, many people will lose their jobs. We don't know how to fight a long-term tariff war with the United States. We all have to wait and see. This trade war not only affects China-US global trade, but also a major reshuffle. Trump's tariffs are different in different places, with different tax rates. Japan, 24%, South Korea, 26%, the European Union, 20%, Vietnam, 46%, Thailand, 36%. However, you should know that many regions, such as Vietnam, have already said that they will reduce tariffs on the United States. Mexico has also said that it will not retaliate. Israel will immediately cancel all tariffs on the United States. These seem to be able to be reduced and negotiated. As for other countermeasures, it depends on the situation. You can expect that the countermeasures will be a tariff war with you. Based on the trade between China and the United States, China has a trade surplus, which is actually a disadvantage. Isn't the United States just a little bit worse? Maybe there will be a chance to talk about it in the second film. It depends on the market reaction. Has anyone watched these films? In the past 10 years, the United States has had a trade surplus of 271.5 billion with Hong Kong, which adds up to more than 20 billion a year in 10 years, but the United States ignores it. When you think that Hong Kong is the same as China, it imposes a combined tariff of 76% on China and Hong Kong. The impact on Hong Kong's re-export trade is very large. It is already very serious in competition with the Greater Bay Area. If you lose your special status, the competition will be even more intense, just like the Greater Bay Area. The costs in Hong Kong are so high in all aspects. This time it is really serious and will also affect Hong Kong's exports to China, because Hong Kong is a re-export port. If China's exports to the United States, there is a big part about tariffs, which is that the United States comes to Hong Kong and then goes to China. In fact, this part can be said to be over. That's really serious. So the content of this episode is almost there. What do you think? Can China bear the 1.5 trillion US dollars? So much foreign exchange has been lost in 5 years, or it is equivalent to 10 trillion RMB. It has not yet calculated the loss of more than 2 trillion to 3 trillion RMB produced abroad and shipped to the United States every year. So can China hold on, and will it win this tariff war? Let's wait and see. Or what do you think? Leave a message below to express your opinion.